The Spider-Man franchise is some of the best movie villains of all time, so today I'm going to rank them all from the worst to the best.
Hello, Peter.
Be sure to subscribe if you enjoyed this video, and with that said, let's get started. In last place we have Rhino, just such a waste of a Spider-Man villain that has been portrayed in the most goofy and over-the-top way possible. Instead of being a menacing character, he's the guy that shouts nonsense at the top of his lungs, driving around in a truck. Then once he gets the Rhino outfit on, the film ends. So obviously there isn't much to go off of here, easily the worst of the bunch. Then we have Venom. Now I think Spider-Man 3 is the worst Spider-Man film, and a big reason for that is how they treat the whole symbiote storyline, and that definitely applies to Venom too. Sam Raimi has clearly stated that he didn't want to include the story, but it was demanded by the studio, and that he himself doesn't like this character. Venom wasn't given a big role in the film at all, and only got the suit near the end. So because this film was already overstuffed with villains, he's really underdeveloped. And the actor playing him doesn't really fit the role. Also, some of the CGI is pretty odd looking. Then we have Green Goblin from The Amazing Spider-Man 2. Such a terrible portrayal of a great character. Now there is actually a pretty interesting idea here about Harry trying to find a cure for his disease, then he tries using the spider venom. But this movie, like Spider-Man 3, is already so overstuffed with plotlines and characters that each one of them are underdeveloped. And I think this character is good when he's just Harry, but once he becomes Green Goblin, he becomes so cartoonish and goofy. Maybe if they split this film into two movies, gave this character more of a setup and made him a standalone villain of a film, he could have gone much higher up. At number 12 we have Sandman, another character that suffers from a film just too full to properly develop him. But the biggest issue I have with this character is the Uncle Ben retcon, which is one of my least favorite things about Spider-Man 3. So they tried to make this character sympathetic, and say that he killed Uncle Ben on accident, which is just such a bad idea.
It's so dumb.
It's so dumb, it's brilliant.
No! It's just dumb.
It completely undermines the original film and Peter's journey in that movie. Then just looking at the character himself, he isn't very memorable, and he's just sort of there. Even bringing him back in No Way Home didn't help, because he still didn't have anything to do. Then we have Lizard. Now from here on it gets much better, as I think this is a pretty effective villain. You get to see this character before the accident, and see that he is a good person. Then you watch this good person turn into a monster. His motivation for why he does these experiments also made sense, as he's trying to get his arm back. I still don't think he's a great villain though. His main scheme in the film is pretty silly, and in No Way Home he doesn't really have any point of being there. So he still does a good job with the role, but it could have been better. That brings us to Doc Ock from Into the Spider-Verse. This is a character that isn't given a whole lot of development or anything, as she is just a side villain, but she is a very memorable side villain. It's a fun twist on a well-known Spider-Man character that is given some cool fight scenes and fun moments, but there isn't much more to a character other than that. At number 9 is Electro, a character hugely improved by No Way Home, as we finally get to see his full potential. If I was just looking at his appearance in that film, he could have gone much higher up. But the way he was portrayed in The Amazing Spider-Man just holds him back on this list. His motivation for becoming a villain was really bad in that film, and even just the way the character is portrayed is done in a really silly way. His personality before getting powers is really over-exaggerated, and once he gets powers, he hardly has a personality at all. But in No Way Home, they get rid of the horrible blue look and therefore allow the actor to shine in the role. And his motivation in that film, even though it is as simple as just wanting this new power he has been given access to, is much better than what we've had before. Then we have Harry. Compared to the Amazing Spider-Man portrayal, this version of Harry is done really well, mainly because you get him in 3 films instead of just 1. So his friendship with Peter feels much more real as you actually spend time with both of these characters. And when he becomes a villain, there's enough development to the character that it feels earned. I don't think the whole amnesia plot was the best idea, as there are already so many plots in Spider-Man 3. But even so, this character is easily the best part of that film. And in the arc they give him where he becomes the hero at the end and dies fighting alongside his friend is a great send-off. At number 7 we have Spot. Now this character will most definitely shoot up on this list once the 3rd film releases next year. But as of now, I really like the direction they are going with him. It is such a unique and odd way of doing a villain, as he keeps escalating as a threat. He starts out as being a very silly character that everyone views as a joke, then he starts revealing more information about his origin and his goal, and therefore slowly becomes a bigger and more serious threat. And then the last time we see him in the film, he's shown in such a menacing and terrifying way, and then he isn't seen again for the rest of the runtime. so he will definitely play a bigger part in the next movie, but I find his transition from a joke to a menace really interesting. Up next we have Mysterio, just a really fun performance by Jake Gyllenhaal that gives us an entertaining and memorable villain. He can play the charismatic fake superhero and then the opposite being the mad villain both really well. And his whole plan involving the drones is also really well done, and obviously his illusion scenes are very cool. But most importantly, he actually wins at the end as he reveals Peter's identity. I do wish his motivation was a bit more interesting, because he could have easily gone higher up if it was, but still a great character. Up next we have Kingpin, the villain that killed Spider-Man. This is a super evil and menacing character, but his motivation for why he does all these evil things is actually really understandable. He lost his family, so he turns to the multiverse to try and get them back, and he's so motivated he will do whatever it will take no matter how bad. So that's when you have a successful villain. You hate the character, but at the same time you understand their point of view. At number 4 we have the Prowler, another great villain from Into the Spider-Verse. And the funny thing is, he's just a henchman character, and he's still better than so many main villains on this list. Why he's really successful is that he has close ties to our lead character, as he's Miles' uncle, which just creates a very interesting dynamic. It isn't explored too much as it isn't the main plot, but this character stole every scene he was in, as he's portrayed in such a cool and menacing way. The way they made this character sort of be Miles' Uncle Ben was also a fun twist. In third place we have Vulture, a nice change as he isn't someone trying to conquer the world. Instead he's a working class guy that lost his job and now turns to crime to make a living. Michael Keaton is great in the role as he can make this character threatening, as well as entertaining and charismatic. The whole twist about him being the father of Peter's date is also clever, and it was definitely a big surprise. So overall, one of the best Spider-Man villains, as well as one of the best MCU villains. In second place is Doc Ock, just a top tier superhero movie villain, again portrayed by a great actor. Why he's such a great villain is because we actually spend time with this character before he goes mad, and therefore his story is even more tragic as we know that he is actually a good guy. But another big reason he stands out is because they give him such a satisfying character arc, as he goes from being the monster controlled by the machines to finally breaking free and dying saving the whole of New York. Then bringing him back in No Way Home was great too, as he was the first villain to get cured, so he comes back to the rescue during the last few minutes as a hero. But coming in at first place is Green Goblin, such a great movie villain that is just so good at being terrifying and insane. A lot of this is obviously because of a great performance by Willem Dafoe, who is so good at portraying this character. He can play the businessman and the scientist and is believable in that role, then he can do the complete opposite and be the crazy villain. He also has many memorable lines and is always trying to teach lessons to Spider-Man.
But the one thing they love more than a hero is to see a hero fail.
And introducing him into the MCU immediately turned him into a top 3 MCU villain. So for the great performance, iconic moments, and interesting characteristics, he comes in at number 1.